leg of our Sumner County Media Days, brought to you by our host sponsor and Birdie Bros, as well as Volunteer Fence, K1 Speed, Steve Schrum, Simply Home Realty, and the Farmers Bank. Sumner County Sports Editor Blaine Kellar here for our last two schools for this 3-day event of Sumner County Media Days. We're going to have Hendersonville to close it out, but first are the Beech Buccaneers, headlined by head coach Anthony Crabtree. Buccaneers were the winningest team in Sumner County a year ago, 11-2. Hit a wall against Springfield to end the season. I wasn't at that game, so I know it was kind of a bitter end, but what kind of happened in that, and what do you kind of take from that last game of the year going into the offseason and preseason?
Oh, well, you know, we had just beaten them, I think, week 10, 3 weeks before that, and, you know, I don't think I did a good job as a coach preparing our team to play that week. I think we had some guys that, you know, kind of took them for granted and kind of overlooked them. You know, they didn't have a great season up until the playoffs. You know, we as coaches knew that they were a good football team, and we're just, you know, a few mistakes away from having a very different season, regular season, than what their record indicated. And then they got hot in the playoffs and, you know, started cut out a lot of mistakes and started playing well, and you know, played extremely well against us, and we didn't play well and had a couple of injuries, and had a couple of guys that didn't play. You know, one got a concussion the first series of the game and was out the rest of the game. So, you know, it was just a perfect storm, and you know, I didn't do a good job preparing our guys to play, and that's my fault. You know, I got to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Outside of that game, it was really a stellar season for your team. Up until that point, you were 11-1. Date against Page in the semifinals seemed like where things were headed. How does that game motivate your guys to get back to that quarterfinal stage and even beyond that this year?
Well, you know, every year is a new year, but, you know, obviously a lot of guys on this team were here last year. You know, we lost 8 starters on defense and 7 on offense, so we lost a lot of people who played. So we have some guys who haven't necessarily played a lot of Friday night football, but you know, they still have a sour taste in their mouth from the way it ended. They know that, you know, we didn't play our best and give Springfield our best shot, and, you know, season didn't end the way we wanted it to. So I think their ambitions are to, you know, try to exceed that this year and not let that happen again.
You talked about some of the starters that graduated and the ones you're trying to replace. Really wanted to ask about the skill position players, guys like Tyler Campbell, Kawan Harris. On the outside, it seemed like you had a lot of talent that went on to either play college ball or just got a degree. So how have things gone in trying to you know, replace those players on the outside at the skill positions?
Well, obviously, you know, we lost some very talented people. But, you know, we have some guys that are talented. You know, some of them are young. Some of them haven't played as much as, you know, KJ Harris or Tyler Campbell. But, you know, they're team players. They're excited about their opportunity to play. We're going to look a little different, you know, for sure. You know, we're not going to be as long out there on the edges offensively as we were last year. And even defensively. We lost a lot of length, but you know, we like our team. You know, we have good chemistry. I feel like we have some good young players. It's just going to take some time for them to develop. So, you know, we got to do a good job coaching them up and be consistent in what we do, and just give them a chance to get better.
One benefit you have coming back are your top 2 running backs from a year ago, DK Williams, and a guy we'll talk to here pretty shortly in East Tennessee State commitment, Shelton Swafford. What kind of dynamic do both of those backs bring to now this, you know, a little different looking offense, like you just said?
Well, you know, both of them had good years last year, and it's always really good and exciting to have 2 guys who can run the ball like they can. Both of them being a year older, you know, having another year of experience under their belt. So we're excited about our offense and, you know, potentially what those guys can do this season. if we can get our run game going.
Shelton was an interesting case when you look at the season stats for him. He didn't touch the ball a ton by the standards of a workhorse running back. He was just extremely effective when he did touch the ball. Do you see that translating in the case that he gets more touches, that kind of effectiveness goes along with it?
Well, hopefully, but it's hard to maintain, a big average when you touch the ball more times per game. That average tends to go down.
Yeah.
But he probably will definitely touch the ball more this year, depending on how much DK plays tailback. DK's more than likely going to be an every down player on defense, which is going to take away from his offensive production a little bit. But yeah, we have high expectations for Shelton. We get our quarterback back, and that's one of the reasons Shelton didn't have as many touches last year, is because our quarterback ran the ball quite a bit as well. And then when you have the guys that we had on the edges, trying to throw it around a little bit and get them the ball, sometimes it's hard to get everybody as many touches as you would like for them to have.
Sure.
But even with all that, Shelton had a really good year.
Yeah, I think he averaged close to 9 yards a carry, and every 10
phenomenal.
Touches, he had a touchdown.
Right.
What allowed him, what characteristics of his game made it to where he could put up those numbers so effectively?
Well, he's a tough, hard-nosed runner. Thought our offensive line did a really good job blocking for him. He did a good job holding on to the ball, take care of the ball, not turning it over. And then when you have the threat of your quarterback running the ball like we had, that makes his job a little bit easier, makes it easier for him to get yards when we do give it to him. So I think those two things combined together really helped his production.
DK Williams, somebody we mentioned that split some reps at running back with Shelton a year ago, getting a lot of looks on that defensive side of the ball from colleges at still a young age for him. Who could kind of fit into that running back tandem, or just kind of room if DK has to play a lot of snaps on the defensive side?
Well, we have a couple of guys. We have J.R. French, who will play a lot of reps on defense too. Devin Crutcher, all three of those guys, DK, Devin, and J.R. will all play a ton of snaps on the defensive side of the ball, but they all three can fill in at tailback too if we need to take Shelton out for some reason. So it's good to have four guys that you're comfortable with, putting them in the backfield to run the football.
And the dynamic that all of those guys bring, I think it's safe to say that any coach wants four guys who do four different things. Is that kind of how that plays out with them?
They're similar, DK and Shelton are probably a little bit more maybe explosive than the other two, but I think all of them can catch the ball out of the backfield. And we're comfortable with all of them carrying the ball in between the tackles. So they're real similar. They're not really different, a whole lot different in their style of what they can do.
Talking about in between the tackles, I did want to ask how that offensive line unit is looking a little bit. Jack Fuchs, Penn State commitment now. That's a huge accolade for your program. Seems like there is a pretty solid junior class alongside him on that line. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, no doubt. We're excited about those guys. We get our center back, played almost every snap last year. Jonas Green, he'll just be a junior. We lost both guards; they were seniors, but we get both tackles back. London Parks and Jack Fuchs. So we feel like we have a pretty good group up there. If we can stay healthy and just continue to get better every week throughout the season, we think they can have a big year.
Is that similar on the opposite side of the trenches for your defensive line?
We lost all of our defensive linemen. We only have one guy. I think Barrett Brown is the only guy that played much last year on the defensive side of the ball. He didn't get a ton of reps. So we're really inexperienced on the defensive side of the ball. So it's definitely going to take some time for those guys to develop and adjust to game speed and game situations and those kinds of things.
A level behind that, Gunnar Clary was arguably the top tackling linebacker in Sumner County a year ago. Andy Brock, another player who contributed at that position, went to Gallatin with former defensive coordinator Brent Russell. So is DK going to have a lot of responsibility in leading that defense from the linebacker spot?
Yeah, we've kind of changed our scheme a little bit. We structured a little bit different than we were last year. So instead of playing with 3 inside backers, we're playing with 2.
Okay.
So things are a little bit easier than our scheme was last year. So, but yeah, DK is definitely one of the anchors in the middle. He's had a really good spring practice, a really good fall up to right now. He seems to be getting more comfortable every day. We have Maverick Hanks, who's another inside linebacker.
Related to Bronco?
Bronco's little brother.
Okay.
So I say little brother, but he's about 6'2". He's a lot taller than Bronco was.
Wow.
Just not quite as heavy. But yeah, those 2 are probably going to be the starting inside linebackers. We lost our outside linebackers, 2 safeties. So yeah, we lost a lot of people off defense and got some new guys coming in. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, when you look at the defensive backs and the safeties, a lot of times those guys can contribute to that wide receiver skill position group that we talked about. Are they similar kind of guys that are going to contribute on those sides of the ball, offensively, receiver, defensively, defensive back?
Yeah, we're just not as long. We're not as long as we were last year. But, like Aiden Curry started last year, played a lot of free safety. This year we've moved him to corner. And, Brock Miller played a lot of safety last year. They rotated at free. So Brock's back at free safety. And then Anton Wright started at corners. So he'll be a starting corner this year. So we get 3 DBs back that played a lot, but the guys up front, the defensive linemen and all of our linebackers inside and outside except for DK, they're really green, really inexperienced. So like I said, it's just going to take time for those guys. They're working hard, trying to do what they can and get better every day. We just got to keep them healthy.
To this point, have they been up to the task and maybe what you've seen in 7-on-7?
Yeah, all the 7-on-7 we've done up to this point has been against ourselves. We're going to Bowling Green on Friday night to throw 7-on-7 up there. But yeah, they're learning. They're doing a good job. It's just like we said. It's just when you get live bullets on Friday nights. It's just a little different than practice.
Yeah.
You're going against other people, not going against yourself. You don't know those guys like you know your teammates on the other side of the ball. It's going to be good. Those guys are going to be fine. I don't know how many games we're going to win, but they're going to fight and compete and play hard. So they know what the expectations are. So they're trying to answer the bell.
Talking with the Beech head coach Anthony Crabtree on Sumner County Football Media Days. We're here at Birdie Bros until 8:30 tonight. Beech is here until 7. Be sure to check us out. Special thanks to Volunteer Fence, K1 Speed, the Farmers Bank, and Steve Schrum Simply Home Real Estate for helping us out and putting this event together. The one position that there's probably some other positions I've left out to this point, but the one that I saved for last is your quarterback spot. Caden Powell spent a lot this summer with some perfect game showcases and travel baseball. From what I've been told, the conversation is that he will be back with your football team this year. What conversations did you guys have with the hectic kind of summer schedule that he's had?
Well, we talked early in the, late in the spring, right before school got out, talked about how much baseball he wanted to play, and, baseball's his niche, and when you have a kid who is, the quality of athlete and competitor that he is, and, is committed to play baseball at Kentucky, that's his thing. So I don't want to do anything to, hinder that or take that away from him, and, I think he was hoping to maybe have a chance to get drafted next spring.
That's what I've heard, yeah.
So, he's played a lot of baseball, and, we've been fine with that. We also have Sawyer Phillips, who got all the reps in spring practice and has got most of the reps this summer up until now. So, Caden's probably going to be back with us next week. So it's going to be a quarterback battle. Both those guys are good players. So they're going to compete for playing time.
And how did both of those guys, it sounds like Sawyer and Caden, they're both big competitors, obviously.
Right.
They're both up to the task to have a battle whenever that rolls around.
And more than likely we're going to wind up playing 2 quarterbacks. to a certain extent.
Yeah.
You know, Caden's strengths, you know, he can throw the ball, you know, strong arm. Obviously, he can run the ball.
Yeah.
You know, Sawyer does a good job throwing the ball, can manage the offense, run offense, and can run the ball a little bit, but not, you know, he's not quite as big as Caden, as heavy. You know, he's tall, he's long, he's lanky, does a good job, but is a little bit more of a passer than he is a runner.
Yeah. This is Sawyer Phillips, somebody that the name's thrown around, you know, to some media guys the past couple of years that Caden Powell's a great football player, and Beech is in good hands after Caden Powell graduates because Sawyer Phillips is very talented. You guys have been aware of kind of what you've had coming up for a while now, right?
Yeah, you know, he was young last year, you know, sophomore, still not quite as strong as he needed to be. You know, JV games, he played well, you know, did a lot of good things. This spring, through the winter, you know, in the weight room, he got stronger, you know, had a phenomenal spring practice. You know, has worked hard this summer, you know, so he's earned playing time. So he just continues to grow and develop. So yeah, absolutely, you know, after this year, going into his senior year, you know, we're excited about him being our quarterback.
Which throws does maybe right now he excel at really well? Because I've heard he's a skilled passer. Is it, you know, is he very precise, or does he have a good arm?
He does. You know, he has nice touch on his deep ball, and he's doing a good job getting the ball out in the short game right now. Throws the intermediate passes well. You know, he's just throwing the ball well right now.
And I'm sure he has a lot of chemistry with some of those receivers that are coming up now, considering they were probably the guys he was throwing to last season in those JV games.
Right. And you know, he got quite a few reps in practice last year too. So, you know, they're both familiar with all the receivers are familiar with both quarterbacks, and the quarterbacks are familiar with most of them.
Other side of that, in playing two quarterbacks, another thought that's kind of been floating around is that Caden maybe would have a different position. Have you thought about moving him around at all with his size, 6'4", 225? I mean, is there any thought of changing his position at all?
Not changing his position, no, but maybe asking him to do some other things, possibly, yes. Because, like you said, you know, he is a big athlete. He is a mismatch, you know, for certain people. You know, he could split out, run routes, catch the ball. You know, he can do a lot of different things as a big physical athlete. Yeah,
I mean, his size is deceptive. It's a story we wrote in the Hendersonville Standard last year about Caden Powell scoring from second base on a sac fly because he's that fast. He is a big body, but he can move.
He can. He runs really well.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Coach, but it was either 2 years ago or last year, in certain situations, only specific situations, you had Caden play on the edge defensively.
No, I don't think we played him at all on defense since he's been with us.
Okay. He punted. I'm
he
not
did
sure
punt
if you'll have him punt this year, but
no, he probably won't be our punter this year. But
that was more of an emergency situation, right? That you had your punter get hurt at the start of the year.
Yeah. That was not necessarily a typical situation. But obviously, I mean, I would love for our quarterback to be able to be our punter all the time, just because you can have better fakes and do some different things like that. But it doesn't always work out.
There's a lot you can do with that. We're talking with Anthony Crabtree at Birdie Bros for Sumner County Media Days. Coach, let's get into the schedule a little bit. You have a gauntlet to start the year. You've got Green Hill, Mount Juliet, Henry County, and East Nashville to start. Yeah, I'm sure you were intentional about making a brutal start and a brutal schedule as a whole.
Well, you know, that's typically kind of been what we've had to go through the last several years. You know, this is the first time we've ever been able to schedule Green Hill. You know, they have a good program. They've done really well. It's better I would rather play, you know, Green Hill and Mount Juliet than have to drive to Memphis and play Collierville or drive to Knoxville and play. You know, all good teams, all great competition. It just costs less money to play Mount Juliet and Green Hill than it does to have to travel.
What do you know about the matchups that you'll have in those games? What can your team kind of benefit or learn from facing teams like that?
Well, they're both well coached. They're going to have good athletes. You know, you're going to have to play well to win. They're not going to beat themselves, so it's going to come down to whoever makes the least amount of mistakes, more than likely is going to win the game. Playing those teams prepares you for the playoffs. The better competition you play during the season, you may not win all those games, but when you get to the playoffs, you're battle tested.
Sure.
You've played good people, so your guys know what the playoffs are going to be like.
You got a new region, and if I'm not mistaken, match up with Page in that playoff bracket, kind of that same region. Kind of reflect or assess what you feel about the change in the region that you've got and how that playoff path is going to look.
Well, the region is primarily Sumner County, with plus Hunter's Lane.
Yeah.
So the objective is to get into the playoffs, and then just like Springfield last year, they were the fourth place team in the region, end up going to the semifinals. So when you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. So that's why we like to play the Green Hills, Mount Juliet's, the Colliervilles, the Farragut's, Riverdales, those people, because when you get there, you want to know that you've played good people, so that you're prepared for what you're going to see in the playoffs. But yeah, the Williamson County teams are good, so it's going to be a tough matchup for sure, in the playoffs.
That Sumner County region outside of Hunter's Lane, you've got Beech, Hendersonville, Station Camp, and Portland. 4 teams from the sounds of it in our Sumner County media days. Still have to talk to Hendersonville, but all 4 of those teams seem to be set up for some form of success. You're not going to have an easy out, so to speak, in this schedule.
No, not at all. Everybody was good last year. They're all going to be competitive. Tough games. You're always, if you win the region the next year, you're always going to get everybody's best shot.
Sure.
So that's kind of what's going to happen this year. When we play the rest of the Sumner County teams.
5 of your first 7 games are on the road. And I know none of those are necessarily long road trips, but what is the challenge in starting the year away from home for so long?
I think the good part is that there's not any long road trips. But at the same time, I say that, but sometimes you like those long trips because if you make it far enough in the playoffs, sometimes you have to make those long trips, so your kids have to know how to handle that. That is a positive to having to travel to Memphis or Knoxville to play, is teaching your kids how to handle that travel. But just playing in those environments is going to be tough because it's other schools' environment. But it'll be good. Our guys will embrace it. It'll be a lot of fun. Should have a lot of really good crowds. So it'll be exciting games.
One good crowd that I'm personally looking forward to. Talked with Coach Michael Straub at Gallatin about this yesterday. The chance for Beech and Gallatin to get back together. Same question I'll kind of pose to you. It feels like, is this a game that's good for Sumner County football to have this back on the schedule?
Sure, I think so. We're 8 or 10 miles apart. Hadn't played in, I guess, 4 years. But there's been some really, really good games since I've been at Beech, the last 20 years. So, yeah, I think it's really good for Sumner County football.
A couple more for you, Coach Crabtree, then we'll let you out of here. We're talking Beech football and Sumner County Media Days, brought to you by Birdie Bros in Hendersonville. Special thank you to Volunteer Fence, K1 Speed, Steve Schrum, Simply Home Realty, and the Farmers Bank. Quick note, producer Alan, I just now realized I think you're putting a tally every time I've got an ad read going here. We've been doing this 3 days. I didn't realize that once. I saw him tally. I didn't realize he was doing it. So, advertisers, get with our guys and see how often I've been reeling off those 4 sponsors without any paper in front of me. Coach Crabtree can vouch.
That's impressive. Did you remember all those?
Not after the first day. The first day I had it tucked away in here, and after that it's just muscle memory now. Coach, you're over 110 wins now for your head coaching career. You're entering your 20th season at Beech as the head coach.
21st.
21st.
21st year.
Curious if you could kind of reflect on the 2 decades that you've been doing it for the Buccaneers and the time before that as an assistant?
Well, it's been better than I ever dreamed it would be when I came here. Every year has been a little bit different. I think that's just the way high school football goes, because every team's a little different. But there's been a lot of things that have changed with Beech football in the last 20 years. Facilities have changed. I think expectations have changed. I think, we have a lot of kids in our program. A lot of kids want to be a part of our program, which is not necessarily the case across the country, I think. I think Sumner County is probably a little bit special from that standpoint, that there's still a lot of kids at pretty much every Sumner County school that wants to be a part of the football program. So we've been blessed, unbelievably blessed with support, good players, good parent support, good administrative support. It's been a lot of fun, had a lot of good players, won a lot of football games. I don't think there's anywhere else that I would rather be than where I'm at right now.
And in that time, you've also expanded a coaching tree within the county, within the area. Through these past 3 days, the more people I talk to, the more I realize I coached with Coach Crabtree, back in 2009, like Ryan Harris or Ian Hafner played for you.
Right.
Keith Powell, Caden's dad, was
coached at Beech.
Yes, coached at Beech with you. What does that mean to you to have that part of kind of your legacy as a coach?
Well, it's always good when you work with people and they leave your school and go somewhere else and are successful. It makes you proud of the fact that you were able to work with them and learn from them and them learn from you, and just happy for all those guys and all the success that they've experienced.
You talked a little bit about the changes that Sumner County has experienced in recent years. Facilities was a word you brought up. Be remiss if not to ask kind of where things are at from your perspective for the football stadium at Beech, for Shackle Island Stadium. As of July 16th, where kind of are we over there?
Well, it's moving along relatively well. They tell me that it should be ready by the first game. Obviously, not every single thing is going to be completed. Yeah. That's going to take a while. But for the most part, the visitor side bleachers have been up for a while. The home side bleachers are probably about 90% complete. So they're doing a lot of the electrical work right now, trying to finish the bathrooms and the concession stand. A lot of work going on. So it's fun to watch. We're excited about what it's going to be when it's finished. I think it's on track to be done so we can play all of our games there.
I think Ryan Harris, the word he used when seeing photos of it was mammoth. That the stadium looks kind of mammoth. How special is that stadium going to kind of look once it's all completed? For a venue for a high school football game in Middle Tennessee. Well,
the biggest difference is I think the size of it. What we had looked nice. It was just old. We'd spent a lot of money trying to basically decorate it up. We put brick on it and new railing around the bleachers and things. But this stadium is just much bigger. It holds several more people, which, if you ever come to a Beech Hendersonville game at Beech, or like in 2019 when Gallatin was there, or in 2012 when we played Clarksville Northeast in the third round of the playoffs, they're 10 deep around the track, around the field, and the stadium's packed. There's no room to sit. So we needed more space for people to sit at games, and I think that's what's going to be accommodated with this. It does look really big, especially when you compare it to what we had.
I think you and Coach Beasley, when I ask him this question later, will share the same sentiment. Once it is finished, will it be nice as a coach to have that distraction kind of out of the way?
Yeah, I think it's been more of a distraction from the standpoint of not being able to use your field, for us throughout the spring, than anything else. Outside of that, I don't really consider it a distraction. Obviously, I guess it is to a certain extent, just because there's so much going on with it that you have to try to manipulate and work around. But yeah, it definitely, when it's complete, there'll be some things you don't have to worry about.
Fun season ahead for the Beech Buccaneers. Thank you, Coach Crabtree, for joining us on Sumner County Media Days. We'll take a break. When we come back, Jack Fuchs, Shelton Swafford, and Aiden Curry join us. You're watching Sumner County Media Days on Mainstream Media Television.
Volunteer Fence is your one-stop shop for all your fencing needs. If you need assistance with residential, commercial, gates, and handrails, trust the company with over 45 years of fencing experience, Volunteer Fence. Located in Hendersonville, Tennessee, Volunteer Fence services customers in Middle Tennessee, including Hendersonville, Gallatin, Lebanon, White House, Smyrna, Nashville, Springfield, Brentwood, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, and the surrounding areas. Call Volunteer Fence at 615-822-6530 for a free estimate or visit www.volunteerfencellc.com.
At the Farmers Bank, nothing means more to us than helping our customers grow. We take pride in supporting our neighbors, creating customized solutions, and building strong communities, one relationship at a time. It's simple. We're just local people making local decisions. We're as community gets. We'd love to be part of your success. Visit any of our non-Middle Tennessee locations or visit us online to get started. The Farmers Bank, improving lives in the markets we serve.
Thank you to our sponsors for Sumner County Media Day, K1 Speed, the Farmers Bank, Volunteer Fence, Steve Shrum, Simply Home Real Estate, and our host sponsor, Birdie Bros. Chris Jones here, big part in getting us a home for Sumner County Media Days. We thank you so much for having us here. And,
our pleasure.
Tell us about Birdie Bros.
Yeah, so we had this crazy wild idea, my business partner and I, a couple of years ago, to bring indoor golf and a sports bar concept kind of together. I've lived in Hendersonville, since 1994, and realized that there's not a lot to do up here. And so we decided to change that and bring a little bit of, unfortunately people characterize it as, it's Top Golf, but inside. And that's kind of what we've ran with for a little bit. Yeah. But we're a sports bar at heart, first and foremost. And then we've got 7 indoor golf simulators that you can come and enjoy as much as you want, whether it's trying to hone in your golf skills or just a night out and looking for some entertainment with your kids or anything in between. So
can release some stress, knocking some balls down too. Huh?
Absolutely.
I've heard great things about the menu too. Our photographer John Decker said he got an ice cream cookie a
little cookie skillet.
The burger was really good. Tell us about what we've got on the menu.
Yeah, so we've got we actually just redid our menu about 30 days ago. So the burger that he was talking about is actually one of our most popular. It's an American Wagyu burger. It's a big, massive half-pound burger that people really love and enjoy. But yeah, we characterize our menu as an elevated sports bar feel. So there's lots of sports bars, whether it's Buffalo Wild Wings or others in the area. But we kind of go above and beyond with our scratch kitchen in the back and making sure that we're home-making sauces. We're trying to step out of the traditional as much as possible to give people a different experience. So we're here for that, and hopefully people will come by and give us a try. A lot of people also are very timid. They think that, Birdie Bros, and they hear the name and they go, oh, it's just golf. And it's like, guys, you can come and have a great meal. You can come and have lunch. We've got lots of specials throughout the week, so would love to see if we can have anybody out and see what their thoughts are, get some feedback.
Oh, he's making me hungry with this menu. Be sure to check out Birdie Bros all throughout this week for Sumner County Media Days here in Indian Lake. A great location, great place for some golf, some food, some drinks. We'll be here all week, but even beyond that, be sure to check out Birdie Bros. Thank you, Chris.
Awesome, appreciate it.
The best indoor go-kart racing experience is here in Nashville, Tennessee. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is a world-class entertainment venue that is designed to help keep you entertained and engaged whether you're on or off the track. If you want to experience indoor karting yourself, are interested in hosting a fun party for a friend or loved one, or would like to plan a corporate function, we'll be here to help. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is open 7 days a week. Visit k1speed.com/Nashville for more details. K1 Speed Nashville is located at 404 Davidson Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Call 615-242 888-3275 or visit k1speed.com/Nashville. K1 Speed Nashville, the best and fastest indoor go-kart racing in Nashville.
What do you look for when searching for a realtor? Experience? Steve Schrum with Simply Home has been a realtor in Sumner County for 30 years. Number of houses sold? Steve Schrum with Simply Home has sold over 1,000 homes. Leadership in the field? Steve Schrum with Simply Home, president of the Sumner Realtors in 2004 and 2018. Awards: Steve Schrum with Simply Home 2006-2016 Realtor of the Year for Sumner Realtors. What do the clients say? Steve Schrum with Simply Home is knowledgeable, professional, and kind with a super work ethic. Steve Schrum with Simply Home sells 99% of his homes quickly and for top dollar, and communicates from the beginning to the end of the process. Your homework is now done. Steve Schrum with Simply Home is the realtor for the job. Call Steve Schrum with Simply Home today at 615-473-6633. Visit Steve at steveschrum.com or stop by and say hello at 118 Saundersville Road, Suite 150, Hendersonville, Tennessee, 37075.
Sumner County Media Days continues with the Beech Buccaneers. Blaine Kellar joined by Jack Fuchs, Sheldon Swafford, and Aiden Curry of the Buccaneers. Guys, thank you so much for taking some time out of your July to speak with us. Wanted to start with Jack and Shelton. Congrats to both of you. Last month announced your college commitments. Shelton going to East Tennessee State, Jack committing to Penn State. I think that was like a Tuesday, Friday thing. You committed on a Tuesday, you committed on a Friday. Was that by design?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was by design, but me coming to ETSU, it was huge for me. You know, my relationship with Coach Johnson, it's just been good. Because I think it was like a year before he was at UNA, University of North Alabama. We just started talking. He took the over a running back position. We started talking. Then like a couple months later, he texted me that he's going to ETSU. That's when I was like, all right, I'm probably going to commit right there, because like the way we just like started up the conversation, we just connected real fast, and I want to play and be coached by a SEC running back coach and also NFL running back coach too. So I feel like me going there, he will help me a lot. You know, he will help me a lot to be better and just help me to develop my running game.
Yeah, Kerryon Johnson, somebody I'd really love to ask you some questions about here in a second. Jack, we spoke after you committed to Penn State. You said that the reason that school stood out was that they had an ability to get guys to the NFL, and that's your dream.
Yeah, 100%. So both Kentucky and Penn State, those are my top two schools. And really it came down to who can develop me better, who has the best resources. And at the end I came to the conclusion that it was Penn State, so I knew that was the place.
Yeah, let's go over to Aiden here. You're flanked by two college commitments here. I'm sure that's pretty fun.
Pretty difficult, yeah.
Tell us about kind of your your role that you're jumping into this year for Beech, kind of helping fill in some of the skill position players that graduated?
You know, it's fun playing a lot the past 2 years, and this year to hopefully lock down a starting spot and play throughout the whole year. I've grown up around Beech, having my dad's a coach, being here since 2012, growing up at every game, being the ball boy. You know, this senior year, it means the world to me, and these boys around me, these are the ones I want to go to war with, and we've got it.
Are you 5'9", Aiden?
That's generous.
How do you make up for maybe, you know, on a defensive play if you're matched up with, especially in this region, some taller talent, some, you know, college-bound players? How do you make up for that as a defender?
I think it's all mental. You've got to be physical, and you've got to find it inside of you to compete and want. That's a really big thing. How bad do you want it?
I keep wanting to use the word gleaned, so I'm going to use the word gleaned here. What do you glean from your dad, as someone who has been at Beech for a while coaching there? How does that translate to kind of knowing how to defend despite maybe not being the tallest player?
Just, you learn, seeing how other people do it, going to games. You watch and you learn, and you get experience without even playing, and that's pretty much it.
Shelton, what kind of an honor was it for you to not only hear from a guy like you said, Kerryon Johnson, who was an SEC back and an NFL player, for him to offer you the first time at North Alabama, but then to do it again once he got to ETSU?
Yeah, it was special. It was really special. But at the same time, I feel like he was going to do it because, you know, the way we've been connecting, talking on phone each other, I feel like he was going to do it. Because as soon as he told me, I was working out by myself. He just gave me a head call. He was like, hey, I'm going to this school, and I want you to know that, and I want you to offer you. And that's when I was like, oh, this is a real connection. This is like a real true friendship, and I want to go play for him.
What does he like about you as a running back?
Man, I'm just physical, and I'm hard running, you know, because I just don't go down easy. So, I think I got good vision. So I feel like that's what, you know, that's what he likes about me.
And how can you be developed, do you think, by a guy like that? What kind of benefit will that be for you?
Man, I feel like there's so many things I can work on, you know, have a better vision, be more physical. I feel like the game, know the game better, you know, read people, read the defense better and see what they give me so I can take it. You know, I feel like that's one thing I need to work on this year, and I feel like he's going to keep helping me with that at ETSU. So.
Jack, one thing we talked about a little bit last year is your offensive lineman family. Yep. Your dad, Scott, an assistant O-line coach for the Titans, your brother, Hank, at Indiana State still. Yep. And I think your younger brother's in line to be, I mean, he's young.
Yeah, this will be his freshman year.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so is he going to play, I mean, is he planning on playing line too?
Yep, he's a left tackle as well.
Do you gloat to your family that you're going Power 4? Scott played at North Dakota State, right?
Yep.
So you're the only one in this group of really successful linemen in your family to go to a big school like that. Do you hold it over them at all?
No, not really ever, because, you know, they're really the people I turn to when I'm looking for experience and just kind of finding my way through it. And I feel like they wouldn't want to help me as much if I was constantly saying I'm better than you. So
right, film study with your family has to be something special. What's it like being in a film session with your dad, or maybe even just getting some advice from your brother?
Yeah, no, it's so helpful. I watched all my film with my dad, and then even I watched some of the Titans film with my dad, and he just helped me point out stuff that I could do better or that I could learn and pick up from experienced guys. So that was super helpful.
One thing you told me when we talked in June was your hand speed was something you wanted to improve a little bit. Yeah. Is that something you got from Scott? I mean, who kind of taught you, you got to be a little quicker in the hands?
Yeah, my dad is always telling me that, and then also Coach Troutwan at Penn State. I talked with him, kind of asked hey, what can I improve on here? So, I'm working on hand speed. I'm working on building my core strength so I can stay in that power position while I go through the whole play. So,
questions for both of you guys. Do you both plan on enrolling early?
Yep.
Is that right? What led to your decision to do that? We'll start with Jack and then go to Shelton.
just getting that step ahead in spring ball and kind of getting that extra experience. So.
All right, Shelton.
Just like what Jack said, just getting a step ahead. And, there's going to be all the running backs, out there in front of me. And this is all the running backs that's coming to ETSU. And I feel like, going there before him and just going there in January, I feel like they can help me to be bigger and stronger and faster and just know the plays so that by fall I can get ready to play. And my goal for next year at ETSU is just to start, you get some playing time. And I want to compete. I'm ready to compete with these guys. I want to show these guys that I'm ready to take a position and take it from there.
Confident, Shelton. Is there a maybe a trip fall with that though? Whenever you have plans kind of in January locked away to go to college, you still want to make the most of this year, this senior season with Beech, right? How do you avoid that pitfall maybe of looking ahead?
I kind of just don't have any plans for the spring. Yeah. And, like with prom and everything, it really isn't too much of a big deal for me considering that I just moved here a year ago. So I don't really have that connection to this school here other than the football team. So really once the football season's over, it kind of feels like school year's over for me.
Jack, answer me this. How often do these guys ask for autographs from Titans players from you? Do they ever?
Never.
None of the Beech guys say, "Hey, give me a I don't know, a Cam Ward autograph," right? I mean, I think that happens less than I thought it would. Well, curious a little bit if you could talk about how things have looked different on the Titans front. I'm sure your dad's talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
How that offensive line has improved. How kind of the outlook for that team is from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've heard good praise from my dad. I think it's going to be a real good team this year, just with the O-line getting a little more experience and having a first-round pick quarterback. Yeah. And then you got a little more depth in the O-line, so I think we'll look real good this year.
Should be a fun season for Titans football. Should be a fun season for Beech football, and we'll continue that on the other side of this break. When we come back, new defensive coordinator Dalton Chambers joins us on Sumner County Football Media Days, brought to you by Mainstream Media Television.
At the Farmers Bank, nothing means more to us than helping our customers grow. We take pride in supporting our neighbors, creating customized solutions, and building strong communities, one relationship at a time. It's simple. We're just local people making local decisions. We're as community gets. We'd love to be part of your success. Visit any of our non-Middle Tennessee locations or visit us online to get started. The Farmers Bank, improving lives in the markets we serve.
The best indoor go-kart racing experience is here in Nashville, Tennessee. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is a world-class entertainment venue that is designed to help keep you entertained and engaged whether you're on or off the track. If you want to experience indoor karting yourself, are interested in hosting a fun party for a friend or loved one, or would like to plan a corporate function, we'll be here to help. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is open 7 days a week. Visit k1speed.com/Nashville for more details. K1 Speed Nashville is located at 404 Davidson Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Call 615-242-3275 or visit k1speed.com/Nashville. K1 Speed Nashville, the best and fastest indoor go-kart racing in Nashville.
What do you look for when searching for a realtor? Experience? Steve Shrum with Simply Home has been a realtor in Sumner County for 30 years. Number of houses sold? Steve Shrum with Simply Home has sold over 1,000 homes. Leadership in the field? Steve Shrum with Simply Home, president of the Sumner Realtors in 2004 and 2018. Awards? Steve Shrum with Simply Home 2006-2016 Realtor of the Year for Sumner Realtors. What do the clients say? Steve Shrum with Simply Home is knowledgeable, professional, and kind with a super work ethic. Steve Shrum with Simply Home sells 99% of his homes quickly and for top dollar, and communicates from the beginning to the end of the process. Your homework is now done. Steve Shrum with Simply Home is the realtor for the job. Call Steve Shrum with Simply Home today at 615-473-6633. Visit Steve at steveshrum.com or stop by and say hello at 118 Saundersville Road, Suite 150, Hendersonville, Tennessee, 37075.
Volunteer Fence is your one-stop shop for all your fencing needs. If you need assistance with residential, commercial, gates, and handrails, trust the company with over 45 years of fencing experience, Volunteer Fence. Located in Hendersonville, Tennessee, Volunteer Fence services customers in Middle Tennessee, including Hendersonville, Gallatin, Lebanon, White House, Smyrna, Nashville, Springfield, Brentwood, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, and the surrounding areas. Call Volunteer Fence at 615-822-6530 for a free estimate or visit www.volunteerfencellc.com.
We are back on Sumner County Media Days, brought to you by Birdie Bros in Hendersonville, as well as Volunteer Fence, K1 Speed, Steve Shrum, Simply Home Real Estate, and the Farmers Bank. There's Alan marking it in the sheet. We're joined by a new Beech defensive coordinator, Dalton Chambers, who gave me a bit of geography lesson walking in here from Oneida, Tennessee. Enlighten our listeners tonight where Oneida is from.
The middle of nowhere. It's you would go towards Knoxville, and from here you'd probably go towards Cookville, and then get off Monterey, go kind of where Coach Crabtree's from, through Jamestown and up. And so it's a very small place. I graduated with about 95 people.
Wow.
So that's a little place.
So what brought you to Beech? So run us through the track that got you to this point.
So I was at the University of the Cumberlands in Winsburg, Kentucky, and from there, graduated, started GAing, and at the end of when I was GAing, it was I finished in December. Okay, so I was trying to find a job, and didn't really have anything to work locally close there because it's in PE. So it's really hard to find a PE job in the Knoxville area. And my wife, we met in college. She is from Rome, Georgia. So, Oneida is kind of a tough place for her to work because she's a Spanish teacher.
Oh, okay.
And at the time, she just got certified to be a paralegal. So she's bilingual, and that's what she was doing. So, we were Knoxville not having anything. I had to find somewhere where, she could find some work. So I started looking in the Murfreesboro area and, Murfreesboro, Chattanooga, and just so happened that Stewart's Creek High School had an open at the time in March of, I guess that would be 22. So that's where I got my start, and I had coached, in college and in high school a little bit before, but it was really my first start in the weight room and, that realm.
You mentioned that you and Coach Crabtree are kind of from the same sort of region. What was the connection that got you to Beech from Stewart's Creek?
So my high school head coach, his name's Coach Lambert. Awesome guy, but him and Coach Crabtree know each other.
Oh, okay.
They've known each other for quite a while, all-star games, just coached for a long time. Coach Crabtree, Coach Lambert's been doing it about the same amount of years, 27, 28 years, something as him. They've just crossed paths a bunch, and when the strength and conditioning job came open at Beech, he reached out to Coach Lambert. Coach Lambert gave him my name, and that's kind of how that got happening. And a very similar place, similar people. Coach Crabtree, Coach Lambert, and the Beech in Oneida. Beech is obviously a bigger place. Being 5A football. A lot more kids in the school in the hallways than 400 something. But proud places, great programs, good traditions. So it's a lot of similarities there.
And you told me right before we got on the air, this is your first time as a defensive coordinator taking over for Brent Russell, who went to Gallatin. What were the conversations like about you taking that position, and what is your first defense going to look like?
Yeah, I talked to Coach Crabtree a lot this offseason, about it, just, really just what we wanted to do, and, kind of do some 3-4 type stuff,
okay.
50, 3-4, and just, those conversations were good, and he's been doing it for a long time, like I said earlier, so he gave me a lot of, insight, and, me being young, I just tried to take in all that information and really, lean on him and ask questions, and we got a lot of great coaches on our staff, too, on the defensive side that have been doing it for a while, and just lean on them and ask them questions and stuff, so that's how we've kind of formed since, probably March or February or so, what we're going to do on defense. And Coach Crabtree, I think earlier said we've lost some starters, and just trying to stay simple and just be good fundamental defense, tackle people, and go from there.
Talking with new Beech defensive coordinator Dalton Chambers on Sumner County Media Days, talking about keeping it simple when the year before you guys had a pretty complex kind of scheme with that 3-3-5 formation. For those that maybe aren't as familiar with how different that is from what you're going to now, can you kind of fill us in on that?
Yeah, it was a lot different as far as the box goes, the 3-3 versus the 3-4, and there were some moving pieces, but we had a lot of experience. Last year we had guys that they were able to handle that, and be able to. It allowed our second level, because we had some really good players at the second level, and those safety spots, KJ Harris, Tyler Campbell, inside DK and Gunner to run and play and tackle people. So, I think just for us this year, it kind of simplifies it, losing 8 or 9 starters, and that'll help us quite a bit. Trying to keep it similar, in some aspects, but simplifying it at the same time.
I asked Coach Crabtree about this, but how important is DK Williams going to be at the heart of that defense?
Yes, very, very important. DK's an explosive athlete, and me being in the weight room with him, I get to see DK a lot of times, running and jumping and doing things. So he's an explosive athlete that if he's going in the right direction, he can make a lot of good football plays. So
you spoke a little bit on the experience of this defensive staff. Who are some of those guys in these first few months as a defensive coordinator that you've relied on for some advice and some insight into how all this works?
Oh, yeah. I mean, on our staff, we've got, not even just on the defensive side, but just our staff in the whole. We've got Coach Mark Curry, who's done it for 29 years to be year 30. Coach Beaver, he's done it for 29, 30 years. Coach Wilson's been a head coach before. Macon County was very successful. So just that's some guys that I really like to talk to and lean on and ask them questions. And then on the defensive side, we got Coach Anthony Coffey, who's, I think the other day we were talking, this is year 13 for him. I could be wrong, but he's been doing it for a while now. Coach Carroll, who played at Beech High School in 2012 on the state championship team, been doing it a while now, 8, 9 years. So Coach Taylor, who this is year 4 for him, I believe, at Beech, he's a good football coach. And Coach Trotter, I think, is 20-something years, so a lot of experience,
Years and years of experience.
A lot of guys have been doing it a long time. So.
Older than probably you and me combined.
Yes, we've got multiple coaches on our staff who've been coaching longer than I've been alive, so yes.
Strength and conditioning coaches typically are viewed as high energy. The general term is rah-rah guys. Is that you?
I don't know if I'm a rah-rah guy, but I try to be I try to be myself, and whatever that calls for that day, and is being intense or not, and just I just try to be myself. I don't try to be a rah guy or have any energy like that. Really, I just try to get the guys to do to do the right things, execute in the weight room, and be safe, and be smart when they lift.
Yeah. Speak a little bit more about some of those guys, maybe on the field, some new faces that have impressed you to this point defensively.
Yeah, I think there's some guys that'll be rising juniors, or rising seniors, and maybe didn't play a whole lot of snaps last year. Barrett Brown, I think Coach mentioned him earlier. He played some last year, but not as much as he is going to this year. He's going to be a rising senior. Had an awesome offseason. Really, attacked the weight room. Cole Davis, another defensive lineman, is probably going to play nose for us. Guy had a great offseason. Try to change his body, gain some weight, and then hasn't played a lot of football. Going to be a junior, but we really feel like he can contribute for us and help us. Other guys, Maverick Hanks, has gained. Maverick Hanks, my first year at Beech in the spring, was probably 125 pounds, and now he's probably 185.
Wow.
So in a year and a half, 2 years, Maverick has really, and he's gotten taller too, so that's helping. He's
6'2" is what Coach Crabtree said.
He's probably 180, 185 pounds now, so he's got a chance to have a good season for us.
First-year defensive coordinator Dalton Chambers, looking forward to seeing what your unit puts out on the field for a tough first stretch of the season. I mean, for a defensive coordinator, it might not get tougher than what you've got to start out.
Sorry.
Excited to see how your group grows. We're going to take another break here on our Sumner County Football Media Days. When we come back, we've got Merrill High girls soccer coach Jason Bentley joining us. Stay tuned.
The best indoor go-kart racing experience is here in Nashville, Tennessee. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is a world-class entertainment venue that is designed to help keep you entertained and engaged whether you're on or off the track. If you want to experience indoor karting yourself, are interested in hosting a fun party for a friend or loved one, or would like to plan a corporate function, we'll be here to help. K1 Speed Nashville by Will Power is open 7 days a week. Visit k1speed.com/Nashville for more details. K1 Speed Nashville is located at 404 Davidson Street, Nashville, Tennessee. Call 615-242-3275 or visit k1speed.com/Nashville. K1 Speed Nashville, the best and fastest indoor go-kart racing in Nashville.
What do you look for when searching for a realtor? Experience? Steve Schrum with Simply Home has been a realtor in Sumner County for 30 years. Number of houses sold? Steve Schrum with Simply Home has sold over 1,000 homes. Leadership in the field? Steve Schrum with Simply Home, president of the Sumner Realtors in 2004 and 2018. Awards? Steve Schrum with Simply Home 2006-2016 Realtor of the Year for Sumner Realtors. What do the clients say? Steve Schrum with Simply Home is knowledgeable, professional, and kind with a super work ethic. Steve Schrum with Simply Home sells 99% of his homes quickly and for top dollar, and communicates from the beginning to the end of the process. Your homework is now done. Steve Schrum with Simply Home is the realtor for the job. Call Steve Schrum with Simply Home today at 615-473-6633. Visit Steve at steveschrum.com or stop by and say hello at 118 Saundersville Road, Suite 150, Hendersonville, Tennessee, 37075.
Volunteer Fence is your one-stop shop for all your fencing needs. If you need assistance with residential, commercial, gates, and handrails, trust the company with over 45 years of fencing experience, Volunteer Fence. Located in Hendersonville, Tennessee, Volunteer Fence services customers in Middle Tennessee, including Hendersonville, Gallatin, Lebanon, White House, Smyrna, Nashville, Springfield, Brentwood, Franklin, Murfreesboro, Mount Juliet, and the surrounding areas. Call Volunteer Fence at 615-822-6530 for a free estimate or visit www.volunteerfencellc.com.
At the Farmers Bank, nothing means more to us than helping our customers grow. We take pride in supporting our neighbors, creating customized solutions, and building strong communities, one relationship at a time. It's simple. We're just local people making local decisions. We're as community gets. We'd love to be part of your success. Visit any of our non-Middle Tennessee locations or visit us online to get started. The Farmers Bank, improving lives in the markets we serve.
On the last leg of Beech's Sumner County Media Days, it's Merrill Hyde girls soccer coach Jason Bentley. And I'm not sure if you can hear that, but it sounds like a cicada to me. Maybe, just maybe, 10 plus hours of live stream has gotten to my head, and now I'm starting to hear things. But it was a miracle that I came up with the name of a cicada in the moment between the break. Anyways, reigning state champs joining us on Sumner County Media Days. Coach Bentley, thank you so much for your time. State championships are not an uncommon occurrence in Merrill Hyde's history, but what made last season so special for you and your girls team?
Well, thanks for having me. Glad to be here and talking with you today. Last year's state championship I think was special because of the group that accomplished it. We had 6 seniors last year, 4 of which had played in 5 straight state championships, and for those players to be able to go out on a win was very exciting, and it was also really neat to see some of the younger players continue to grow into it, and to kind of set the stage for their leadership going into this year. But last year's was a good one. It was a special one. They're all special. Yeah.
That state tournament run started with a little bit of revenge too, getting to knock down Liberty Creek, the team which beat you in the state championship 2 years ago. Pretty sure you downplayed it at that moment because you had a semifinal game still to win in the championship too. But I'm certain your players were so excited by that draw to start the state tournament last year.
The reality is that should have been the final. I think they would agree with that statement. That really should have been the state final again. In a lot of ways, I think it was unfortunate that we drew each other so early. But given the way they're calculating seeding and things of that nature, and the schedule that Liberty Creek plays, the schedule we play, it wasn't surprising that we weren't sitting number 1 and 2 in the rankings. So, it was a good victory. It was a year in the making. So to be able to go ahead and take care of business that first game, in a lot of ways, I think that got a little of the pressure off of us. Luckily we're able to advance and take care of the next 2.
Very close to a calendar year in the making from that 2023 state championship game in Chattanooga to the state quarterfinal game between Merrill Hyde and Liberty Creek. Yeah, part of what undertoned that game was the seeding that the TSSAA was introducing from Max Prep's rankings at that time. How much communication has come from the TSSAA on any? Are there any tweaks coming to that system, or is it going to kind of be more of the same?
It's my understanding it's going to be more of the same. They've got the formula. Everybody knows what the formula is. I couldn't do the math in my head to figure it out, but ultimately, in my opinion, I think it works great for 2 and 3A.
larger classes.
Larger classifications. I think the smaller classification, there's a little bit of mismanagement, I would say. Not mismanagement, but strength of schedule isn't weighted probably the way it should be.
It's tougher to have a strong Class A team as opposed to a strong Class AA, according to strength of schedule.
According
right?
to strength of schedule, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a single A school like we are, and you play primarily double and triple A schools, we're gonna take some losses,
right?
And that'll reflect in our overall ranking going into state. However, it makes us better prepared for state because we're playing JP2 and CPA and White House and Hume Fogg and DCA and schools of that nature. So, it's an imperfect system. It's the system we've got. Again, I think it works for 2A and 3A, but I could see how it gets a little skewed on the single A side.
Going back to something you said at the jump, that 6-player senior class that you had, really impactful on Merrill Hyde soccer across your time. Just what a joy was it to get to coach that group?
Yeah, we 6 seniors, and again 4 of them for 5 years. I mean, it was a great group, and it was they played they just grew in their roles from 8th graders to freshmen to sophomores. And they gave so many big minutes and had so many big moments. I remember in the loss 2 years ago to Liberty Creek, a senior and a junior, my 2 center backs, they gave everything they had. I was as proud of that team in a loss, as I was of last year's team in a win. Just because that effort, that energy, and that desire, that they had it was just something special to see. And they were a special group, and they'll be missed.
Part of what's interesting about Merrill Hyde's makeup as a really successful soccer team in Sumner County and the Mid-State is how much youth you guys utilize. That roster, 6 players graduating is and always will be a tough blow for any team. But part of what makes you guys so successful is the fact that you're pulling players from the 8th grade levels that have success and contribute from the start there.
Yeah, and to play as an 8th grader, I mean, you have to be a certain type of player and have a certain skill set. You are going against bigger, faster, stronger. So, there are some pretty well-defined criteria, so to speak, or ways that we analyze an 8th grader before we just put them on a team. We really look at 8th graders very different than anybody else and really look at more what's in the best interest of that 8th grader. For instance, Bella Henderson from a couple of years ago, her 8th grade year, she came out and, the decision was made for her to continue with club and not play as an 8th grader. She was just going to get more playing time playing club ball. And so that made sense for her from a development standpoint. So we really look at the 8th graders on a very, very individual side of what's best for the player, not what's best for the program. But when we do have them, generally we do integrate them quickly. They are going to get playing time, and having that extra year really sets them up for success. So.
Even as freshmen or underclassmen, can you pinpoint some of those players, that next crop of Merrill Hyde soccer stars that are kind of coming through your system right now?
Yes, I can. We have a really good middle school program that Ashley has been taking care of for the past couple of years, and before that, Donnie Evans, and so the identification and the development is there. Obviously, middle school is not high school, and middle school is not club.
Sure.
But it gives us a chance to get the girls that are in school together, playing together a little bit, letting them have a little fun together. And so usually have a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pike.
Talking to Merrill Hyde girls soccer coach Jason Bentley on Main Street Media's Sumner County Media Days. Coach, I think the goal for you always is to go back to Chattanooga. The goal is always, probably now the standard has been set to hoist a gold ball. How has your team attacked that to this point?
So, I mean, yes, it is the standard, and it obviously creates an immense amount of pressure for those players, fair or unfair. For the new ones coming in, they're inheriting a program where that is the standard. So far, I think we've done a very good job of the olders passing down what it takes to the youngers. And so when girls are new in the program, we generally have had very, very good upperclassmen leadership, and they've been able to see what goes into winning a state championship or competing for state championships. And so so far we've been able to transfer that knowledge base a little bit. There's no substitution for playing in them. I remember our first time to state, I didn't know what to expect and what to do, and we were all nervous, but after you get there, the next step is how far can you advance, and after we've won one and played for 1-3, played for 5.
Yeah.
It's that experience is there, and it's continuing to be passed on, and the stage is not too big for them now.
Where is this group right now? I know it's so early. It's July 16th, but before you know it, the season is going to start. Where's this group right now compared to the last 5 that have played for state titles?
The mindset is still the same. I mean, they've already been putting in the work starting in May. We just got back from camp up at Western Kentucky, they're putting in the effort that they need to put into it to make a run for a fourth and going for a back-to-back. That's a hard thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's a hard thing to do, and we're going to have a smaller senior class this year. We only have 2 seniors. But we do have a very experienced junior class, and returning our entire midfield. Some other players that were solid players next year, it'll be their turn to elevate their game and to take on more leadership roles. But from a mindset, from a work ethic, from a focus standpoint, we're where we need to be right now.
We mentioned Liberty Creek earlier. That was a team that you could have matched up with potentially based on the classification in the previous cycle. That, don't want to call it a threat, but lack of better terms, is now gone because of the change in this cycle. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of run us through how different the district and the region looks for you, your path to the state tournament?
So the path itself doesn't look that much different for us. With the way the regions were aligned, there was the potential that us and Liberty Creek could meet first, meet before in a sectional or something like that. But yeah, with the reclassification, their numbers they're moved up, so there'll be a station camp and White House and so forth. For us, I don't think the path changes. I think there's some schools that on the smaller side that have been developing over the past, 2 to 3 to 4 years. I'd be curious to see, has that development continued? For the past 2 years, it's been the same Final Four in the state finals on the single A side. And 2 of those 4 have exited and been moved up to 2A. So there's going to be a couple of schools making it into the tournament this year that haven't been there before. And so they're going to be anxious, and they'll be looking to take their programs to the next step. So, it's going to look a little bit different this year, but as far as what we do and how we go about preparing ourselves, that doesn't have any change on what we will be doing.
Yeah, how much do you keep an eye on girls soccer across the state? Do you have any ideas on who those 2 teams kind of to take the place of Liberty Creek and, another squad could be?
I mean, just looking at it historically, I would imagine someone like a Smith County who has been playing in sectionals would benefit. The way it's designed now, with the regions. They won't match up against us on a sectional for a potential knockout round. So I would think they're in a good spot to be one of those other teams. And then, beyond that, maybe a Cascade.
I'm really putting you on the spot here, but
yeah, it's just looking at historically, Smith County I think stands to benefit. Who that other school is, I'm not 100%.
Talking with Jason Bentley, Merrill Hyde's girls soccer coach on Sumner County Media Days. We're brought to you by Volunteer Fence, Steve Shrum, Simply Home Realty, Farmers Bank, and K1 Speed here at Birdie Bros until 8:30 tonight. You listed off a couple of teams earlier that happen to be on your schedule for this coming year. Green Hills, CPA, Hume Fogg. Hendersonville seems to also be on that schedule. Was that a game you guys tried to schedule last year?
It was, and it was a late game for both of us. And unfortunately, given rainouts and district makeups, it was one that just wasn't able to be played.
Yeah.
Which that happens every year. Unfortunately, it was that game. But we're looking forward to playing the game. We appreciate Hendersonville putting us on the schedule. I think it's a great game to be played.
Absolutely.
We're right across, such a short distance. So many of the players, all the players know each other, from club ball. I mean, you can run that down from any of the county schools, whether it's Gallatin Station Camp, White House, Beech, Hendersonville, JP2. I mean, they all enjoy playing against each other in the high school ranks, and I'm glad we're able to schedule that game and get that played. We may be regretting it after that game is played, but hopefully it's one that we'll be able to continue to schedule for sure.
What a benefit is it for you as a coach to be surrounded by such good teams here in Sumner County? You get the chance to consistently play JP2, which is a strong team in Division II, Hendersonville, which is a consistent sectional player, Liberty Creek. This county is so rich with girls soccer teams, it must make scheduling kind of a joy and a burden at the same time, knowing you've got some strong teams that you could schedule.
So I think, when you start looking at Sumner County and Sumner County soccer and specifically, there's been a tremendous amount of success that Sumner County has had. Whether it's, Station Camp, winning last year.
Runner-up last year.
Runner-up, won the year before. That's right. Had the unfortunate injuries last year going into that final. Liberty Creek, us, historically, Hendersonville, huge program in Sumner County. Beech had one, I guess it was about 9 years ago, I think.
Right. White House as well.
White House as well. There's such strong programs in Sumner County. And, Gallatin was there a few years ago.
Yes, yeah.
And, of course, the question is, how does that happen? Why is that?
That's a question I posed to Greg Harper last night.
And what was his answer? So I don't give you the same.
I don't think it wasn't anything particular. I mean, the club foundation that has kind of been laid here, of course, that's part of it.
So I think the club foundation is very, very strong. Obviously, with Tennessee United, TSC, and then. I also think one of the key things that goes into it has been the consistency of the coaching staffs. There's not a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, with Jeremy, John obviously was at Beech on the girls' side and the boys' side for a long time. Myself, Harper's been at it for years. There's Felzine at White House.
Yes.
I mean, he's 20 years in, I think,
Yeah.
And so I think that consistency of the coaching at the high school level has also allowed for a lot of consistency within developing systems and schemes, and has benefited the county also.
One more before we let you go here, Coach Bentley. We've now listed out a few games on your schedule, and I'm sure you'd answer by saying all of Merrill Hyde's games are worth watching, but to those that want to catch a game for the Hawks this season, what are some games that you feel are really going to be worth the price of admission?
You know, I mean, obviously Hendersonville's got to be at the top of that list.
Yeah.
CPA coming up from Williamson County, it's got to be on that list. You know, having an inter-county rivalry with White House, which we've been playing for years, and Coach Felzine and I have a lot of respect for his program. You know, those are three good ones to come out for. But it's going to be an exciting season, and yeah, we're ready to get started.
The reigning state champs look to defend their crown once again. Stay tuned to watch Merrill Hyde girls soccer throughout this fall. We'll have coverage for it for the Hendersonville Standard. But for now, that wraps up our Beech/Merrill Hyde episode of Sumner County Media Days. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to K1 Speed, Volunteer Fence, Steve Schrum, Simply Home Real Estate, and the Farmers Bank. We will see you in just a little bit to wrap up with Hendersonville's edition of the Sumner County Media Days. Thank you for watching.